The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 3, Ymir, Chapter 18. Hazor fell down the stairs, screaming all the way. A third of the way down, he catapulted straight into the path of his 3 Vengegnarls. All 4 of them got tangled together and fell another 30 steps. Tal didn't wait to look. He raced back to where he'd come in. A wall of light blocked the steps to the surface, drowned in sand. Tal had already thought of how to deal with that. He would make a hand of light and use it to carry himself up to the surface. There was only one slight flaw in this plan. Tal had only ever seen a hand of light made once, by 3 guards, who were all much more experienced light mages than he was. But he had found that making the stairway of light in the pit had opened up his mind to all sorts of light magic that he couldn't previously do or hadn't ever known about. Tal was pretty certain he knew how to make a hand. Well, actually there were 2 flaws. The other one was that he had to make the hand in the few minutes he had before Hazor and the Vengegnarls stopped falling down the stairs and came ravening up them instead. Tal put all those thoughts at the very back of his mind and concentrated on his sunstone. He had 2 other stones now, taken from Hazor, but the one in his ring he knew best. He knew orange light best, too, so it was with that he decided to weave his hand. First of all, he sent out a thin beam. He gradually widened that until it was like a band of cloth, which he wove backward and forward to build up his hand. Because time was short, he actually made more of a mitten than a hand. It had a thumb, but no fingers. It hovered a stretch away from him, as tall as he was and 4 times as wide. Tal concentrated on the hand. Slowly, it drifted toward him. For a moment, he thought he'd made it too insubstantial, but when it touched him, it felt solid. The hand closed with Tal inside it and backed away from the wall of light that covered the exit. Then it rushed forward, knuckles out. Tal braced inside for the shock. The hand hit the wall of light and smashed straight through. Orange light flared and sand started geysering in through the V of the thumb, where there was a slight gap. Up! Thought Tal urgently, his head bent over his sunstone in intense concentration. Up! The hand pushed its way through the sand. Tal's sunstone shone so brightly he had to close his eyes as it pumped power into the hand. Behind him, sand poured like a tidal wave through the broken wall of light into Hazor's lair. Tal hadn't planned it like that, but the sand was covering his retreat. With his best sunstones taken, Hazor would be hard put to stem the flow of sand. He would not be able to pursue immediately. Tal kept urging the hand up. Even when it burst out on the surface, flinging sand and slabs of stone in all directions, he kept it going. He was almost 200 stretches up in the air when Adris caught up with him and said,
"Tal, what are you doing?"
Distracted, Tal lost concentration. The hand rippled from orange to yellow and then through the entire spectrum. "Dark, take it!" cursed Tal. He lost control completely. His sunstone went dark, the hand vanished, and Tal started to fall. He didn't start screaming until he was halfway down, because he'd thought Adris would catch him. Unfortunately, Adris didn't realize he was needed until it was almost too late. He came diving down and snatched at Tal's hands when the boy was certain he was about to die. Tal kept screaming after Adris saved him, but this time it was because his arms had been almost pulled out of their sockets. After a moment he recovered and stopped his panicked howling. They were still quite high up, and there was no sign of movement in the sand below. "Fly east," Tal croaked. He could stand the pain in his shoulders a bit longer. "Fly as far as you can."
"Sure,"
said Adris. He craned his head down to look at his companion.
"I guess Hazor wasn't so bad after all. He gave you 1, 2 sunstones. And what's that other thing?"
"I think it's a key," said Tal. He was shivering now in delayed shock. "And Hazor didn't give it to me or the sunstones. That's why we have to fly as far as we can."
"Why?"
asked Adris. Then, in a slightly different tone, he added,
"Oh, I see. Hazor will want them back."
Then, later still, the Storm Shepherd gingerly asked,
"How bad and terrible is he, by the way?"
"Very. Both," said Tal. Worse than he'd imagined. because he was not an Inarian creature. How could a chosen become like Hazror? Why did he live like he did, preying on innocent young chosen? Then, a much nastier thought came to Tal's mind. How did the young chosen find Hazror? Why would they go there in the first place? It wasn't as if his lair was easy to locate, or in any well-known place for finding and binding spirit shadows. Had they all been sent by the Codex, like he was? Sacrificed to try and get the bone whistle that now hung around his own neck? Or had someone else sent them to their deaths? Lennon had been a very smart boy, Tal recalled. He graduated first from the lectorium last year. Maybe he had discovered some of the things that Tal had been finding out. Tal had a lot of questions. He hoped he'd find the Codex soon and then it could answer some of them, even if he was afraid of the answers.